Hey kids. Alright, so I keep trying to think like how to make this like good and exciting for you guys to make you want to do things like read. Oh my god, we're gonna read a story today. For real. Okay, so how do we begin reading a story? Of course, it seems like you just grab a book and read it, right? Not really. It's a lot better because reading a book is a whole different experience. It's a lot better if you come at it with the right approach. So first we start off with, where did this book come from? Who wrote it? Why? Where were they? What time period were they in? Whenever you decide you want to pick up a book and invest your time into it, make sure you do a little research and backup check. That way you'll know if you want to commit that time to reading that book or not. Then you won't be all bummed out at the end and be like, wow, I can't relate to that at all. So, The Little Prince was written by a French guy. He was a pilot. He was a war hero. And you could do your own research on that as well. I encourage you to do so. I'm not gonna sign up for homework or anything, but I should. Well, hopefully you'll want to do it on your own time after we read this book together, because the book really is that good. And it's one of those awesome, rare kids books. Well, it's considered a kid's book, but there's so much substance to it that even your parents and stuff would probably enjoy it if they would sit down and read it with you. So, we're going to start off with some of those first pages that we usually skip. First of all, here we go, it's this. What you need to know is all this artwork, like what you see down here, it's watercolor. And it's all originally done by the author himself. He himself didn't believe that he was a good artist, so a lot of the pictures he unfortunately didn't get to finish. His son did for him. But he tried, and he did enjoy, drawing and trying to do art stuff, but he didn't actually see himself as an artist. So this book was also a way for him to live his dream of wanting to be an artist. Isn't that an awesome concept? So, we're going to open up to this page. Normally, we don't read this page. We skip all that preface and all that other stuff. But I'm going to read it to you, and I'm going to explain it a little bit so you guys can have a better understanding of the book as a whole. It says, to Leon Worth, which is somebody's name. I ask children to forgive me for dedicating this book to a grown-up. I have a serious excuse. This grown-up is the best friend I have in the world. I have another excuse. This grown-up can understand everything, even books for children. I have a third excuse. He lives in France, where he is hungry and cold. He needs to be comforted. And if all these excuses are not enough, then I want to dedicate this book to the child whom this grown-up once was. All grown-ups were children first, but few of them remember it. So I correct my dedication to Leon Worth, when he was a little boy. What does this mean? What is the author trying to tell us? What message is he trying to convey to us with just this simple little tiny paragraph that's not even a part of the story? He's telling us that he's dedicating the book to someone he considers a dear friend that he clearly knew in childhood. So what does that tell you about how the author sees the difference between children and adults? Well, children and adults don't always understand each other. And we often, as adults, don't understand our own inner child. And that kind of becomes one of those boundaries where it becomes a little difficult to connect with our own children sometimes in adulthood. And that's just the way life is. But knowing this, we can be mindful of that and make it better and kind of approach situations a little differently. Knowledge is power in this sense. It just, every single which way you turn it, knowledge is always power. When you know, the more you know, the better. It really is true. Keep that in mind, kids. And don't let this coronavirus stop you from learning. Ever, 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 ever. Don't let anything ever stop you from learning. Always learn, and you can always learn something from somebody, from everybody. Everybody's got something to teach you, so keep an open mind. All right. Once when I was 6, I saw a magnificent picture in a book about the jungle called True Stories. It showed a boa constrictor swallowing a wild beast. Here is a copy of the picture. You see that at the top right there? Can you see? In the book it said, boa constrictors swallow their prey whole without chewing. Afterward, they are no longer able to move, and they sleep during the 6 months of their digestion. In those days, I thought a lot about jungle adventures and eventually managed to make my first drawing, using a colored pencil. My drawing number 1 looked like this. You see it down there? What does that look like to you guys? Take a moment, examine the pictures, and just discuss it amongst yourselves. What does it look like to you? I showed the grown-ups my masterpiece, and I asked them if my drawing scared them. Weird, huh? I wonder why. Let's find out. They answered, "Why be scared of a hat?" See, they thought it was a hat, huh? My drawing was not a picture of a hat. It was a picture of a boa constrictor digesting an elephant. Then I drew the inside of the boa constrictor so the grown-ups could understand. They always need explanations. My drawing number 2 looked like this. You guys see that? So he's, as a small child, trying to connect with the adults, as I'm sure you guys all do. It's not always easy, is it? But we hear you, I promise. The grown-ups advised me to put away my drawings of boa constrictors, outside or inside, and apply myself instead to geography, history, arithmetic, and grammar. That is why I abandoned, at the age of 6, a magnificent career as an artist. I had been discouraged by the failure of my drawing number 1 and of my drawing number 2. Grown-ups never understand anything by themselves, and it is exhausting for children to have to provide explanations over and over again. So you see, now you're starting to see a little bit of the backstory showing itself in the actual story. It really gives you a better understanding of the book and literature as a whole. So then I had to choose another career, and I learned to pilot airplanes. I have flown almost everywhere in the world, and as a matter of fact, geography has been a big help to me. I could tell China from Arizona at first glance, which is very useful if you get lost during the night. So I have had, in the course of my life, lots of encounters with lots of serious people. I have spent lots of time with grown-ups. I have seen them at close range. Just in case y'all forget what the book is called and don't have to stare at me this whole time. Whenever I encountered a grown-up who seemed to me at all enlightened, I would experiment on him with my number 1 drawing, which I have always kept. I wanted to see if he really understood anything, but he would always answer, "That's a hat." Then I wouldn't talk about boa constrictors or jungles or stars. I would put myself on his level and talk about bridge and golf and politics and neckties. And my grown-up was glad to know such a reasonable person. Chapter 2. See, we're moving steadily along. So I lived alone without anyone I could really talk to, until I had to make a crash landing in the Sahara Desert 6 years ago. Something in my plane's engine had broken, and since I had neither a mechanic nor passengers in the plane with me, I was preparing to undertake the difficult repair job all by myself. For me, it was a matter of life or death. I had only enough drinking water for 8 days. The first night, then, I went to sleep on the sand 1,000 miles from any inhabited country. I was more isolated than a man shipwrecked on a raft in the middle of the ocean. I'm sure some of y'all have felt that way these last however long it's been. So you can imagine my surprise when I was awakened at daybreak by a funny little voice saying, "Please, draw me a sheep." What? Draw me a sheep. I leaped up as if I had been struck by lightning. I rubbed my eyes hard. I stared, and I saw an extraordinary little fellow staring back at me very seriously. See, that's an example of paradox. Like when He describes all the adults as serious, and then here he meets this kid who's looking at him very seriously. Makes it very peculiar, kind of paradoxical. Here is the best portrait I managed to make of him later on. That's The Little Prince, guys. And here's another note. The author spent the most time on this one. He really wanted to get the image of the little prince down. And the little prince is a symbol for all of you kids, because all of you kids bring a joy into our life. You guys are all our little ray of sunshine. And it's true, as cliche as that may sound to you, it's true. You guys light up the world. But of course, my drawing is much less attractive than my model. This is not my fault. My career as a painter was discouraged at the age of 6 by the grown-ups, and I had never learned to draw anything except boa constrictors outside and inside. So I stare wide-eyed at this apparition. Who knows what apparition means? Apparition is like a ghost. Don't forget that I was 1,000 miles from any inhabited territory. Yet this little fellow seemed to be neither lost nor dying of exhaustion, hunger, or thirst, nor did he seem scared to death. There was nothing in his appearance that suggested a child lost in the middle of the desert 1,000 miles from any inhabited territory. When I finally managed to speak, I asked him, "But what are you doing here?" And then he repeated very slowly and very seriously, "Please draw me a sheep." In the face of an overpowering mystery, you don't dare disobey. Absurd as it seemed, 1,000 miles from all inhabited regions and in danger of death, I took a scrap of paper and a pen out of my pocket. But then I remembered that I had mostly studied geography, history, arithmetic, and grammar, and I told the little fellow, rather crossly, that I didn't know how to draw. He replied, "Well, that doesn't matter. Draw me a sheep." Since I had never drawn a sheep, I made him one of the only 2 drawings I knew how to make, the one of the boa constrictor from the outside. And I was astounded to hear the little fellow answer, No, I don't want an elephant inside a boa constrictor. A boa constrictor is very dangerous, and an elephant would get in the way. Where I live, everything is very small. I need a sheep. Draw me a sheep." See, so what is this little prince doing here for this pilot? They're building a relationship with one another. You have this little prince who came out of nowhere, and suddenly this pilot is being motivated and inspired to start drawing again, just like he wanted to. That's clearly a passion for him and has been since he was young. And here comes this little fellow, as he calls him, and he's inadvertently getting him to start drawing. He's like, "Look, I need you to draw." And that's what you guys do to adults. You guys inspire us to become better and to do things that we haven't done since we were small. It's a powerful thing you guys have. Very powerful. Keep that in mind, guys. All right, let's continue. So then I made a drawing. He looked at it carefully and then said, "No, this one is already quite sick. Make another." You guys want to see what the sick one looks like? It's right here. Can y'all see? You see that? He said, "No, I don't need a sick one. So then I made another drawing. He looked at it carefully and then said, "No, this one's Oh, wait, we've already seen that one." I made another drawing. My friend gave me a kind, indulgent smile. You can see for yourself. That's not a sheep. It's a ram. It has horns." Here he is. You see? It's like, what? I wanted a sheep. Get it right. See, so he's getting him to start not only drawing, but he's trying new things, like over and over again, just to try and appease this little boy. Appease means to please. Easy to remember. Always enrich your vocabulary. So I made my third drawing, but it was rejected like the others. This one's too old. I want a sheep that will live a long time. Here's the old sheep, guys. Bah. You see him? Rickety. So then, impatiently, since I was in a hurry to start work on my engine, I scribbled this drawing and added, "This is just the crate. The sheep you want is inside." There's the crate right there. So, because this pilot started thinking about, the things he needs to do, because he's got to go fix his plane and get out of the desert. He's an adult. Adults have things that they have to do that kids don't understand sometimes. So the pilot got smart, and he decided to let this kid use his imagination. Let's see if it worked. But I was amazed to see my young critic's face light up. "That's just the kind I wanted. Do you think the sheep will need a lot of grass?" "Why?" "Because where I live, everything is very small." "There's sure to be enough. I've given you a very small sheep." He bent over the drawing. "Not so small as all that?" "Not so small as all that. Look, he's gone to sleep." And that's how I made the acquaintance of the little prince. All right, you guys. I'm going to stop there for now. And I want you to just think about what we read and what we talked about. And we'll continue with this tomorrow. But I'm going to give you some assignments. And I hope you guys do them. And I want to hear your feedback, okay? I want you to make flashcards, okay? I'm going to give you hang on one second. Let me see what I want you guys to do. All right. I want you guys to grab your notebook, and I want you to write down symbolism, okay? It's backwards, isn't it? Yeah, okay, it's backwards. Symbolism. It's S-Y-M, like mom, B-O-L-I-S-M. Symbolism. And I want you to go on the internet and Google it and learn the definition, and I want you to find an example of it out of what we read. And that way we'll have a better understanding of this. And this will be your first literary term. And we'll learn a whole bunch more, and you can use all of them, and it'll greatly help you as you grow up. I can't wait to keep doing this with you guys. Let me know what you think. And I can't wait to see you guys all again. Love you.